cybersecurity, a triple-edged sword. And so far I've heard only two edges for it. And so how many of you, along with me, are interested and excited to know what's the third one? So then, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I take this honor to call upon the Global Head Cybersecurity, KPMG, Mr. Akhilesh Tuteja, with a big round of applause.
Like the Indian mythology where God is kind, unfortunately in Greek mythology the God is not very kind. Okay, so the God is strict, like my school principal wants to make sure that he punishes people. So Sisyphus was a very powerful person. And Sisyphus decided saying, I want to play God. And the God got very angry. Like all the ministers and the CEOs, they get angry when you start to play God. So he said, okay, no. So actually he was given death penalty. And Sisyphus is considered the most cunning person known in the universe at that time. So he found a way to actually cleverly avoid death by saying that, today is a day nobody can die. And actually his death sentence was cancelled. Few years later, he's still not settling well, like a bad employee. So he was given death sentence the next time. And second time he used his wife cunningly to again avoid death. I don't think that they did Karwa Chauth in those days, but something similar, she kind of managed death aversion for Sisyphus. And finally, third time the God said, okay, you're not going to die, but I'm going to give you this task, which is known as called the Sisyphean task even now. And the task was basically saying that, you start your day, pick up this big boulder and take it to the top of the mountain. And as you reach the mountain, the boulder will come back again and you go back and restart again till eternity. So you don't want to die, don't die, but keep doing till you die. And that is what's called the Sisyphean task, which is the aimless, useless, complete task. That is what it looks like when I'm sitting in KPMG office. Because every day there's a load of emails and cracking stuff and useless. So I come to conferences like this to break away from my Sisyphean duties to come and do something very interesting and meaningful here. But what I'm telling you here about this story is because this is also the reality of a lot of cybersecurity professionals. Now I don't know how many of you here are the cybersecurity professionals, but people in cybersecurity world are living Sisyphean life. Every day they look into the logs, everything is fine, something is not fine. So it's very monotonous, very difficult. It's a Sisyphean job. So can AI really make our Sisyphean jobs better is what I'm going to explain through this thing today. But why do we need cybersecurity? I want to take you back about 2200 years ago. 2200 years ago. This is a game which is known as the Snakes and Ladders, right? Those of you who played this game like in your childhood. By the way, this game was earlier known as Mokshapath. It was invented in India about 2200 years ago. The Britishers call it Snake and Ladders. The Americans call it ladders and shoots. They don't like snakes because kids will get scared. They will call 911 if they play a game like with snakes and all that. So they call it ladders and shoots. But this game was invented 2200 years ago. This is a game of zero skill, kind of strategic skills. It's not a game of counting skills, by the way. Okay, there is no strategy you can apply and all that. So this is the modern version of Snakes and Ladders. I'm sure all of you have played it. But did you find something very interesting about it? That this game actually has a very interesting phenomena, which is there are roughly the same number of snakes as the number of ladders. So there are 10 snakes and there are 10 ladders. But if you actually went through every snake and you went through every ladder, you are actually at a disadvantage. So what it says that a snake is more dangerous than the ladder is good for. So in life, there are going to be more risks than there are going to be more rewards. And therefore you need cybersecurity professionals to make sure that there are going to be more snakes. And the snakes are more dangerous. You need some ladders. So here in my view, this represents the snakes are all cyber attacks and the ladders are all those professionals. And can AI turn this equation of which is minus 22 because there's a positive sign of 166. If you do all ladders, you'll get 166 points. If you got all cut by all snakes, bitten by all snakes, you'll get 188 points. So in life, there are more troubles than benefits. By the way, this is the modified version. The older version even was worse than this. So can AI really solve us and make our ladders more effective than the snakes are? There have been some attempts. This is another story which I'll tell you, the third and hopefully the last story will come to. This is a story of Mechanical Turk. Some of you might not have heard it. This is a story which nobody likes to talk about it. There's a guy a few hundred years ago, we actually came saying, I have developed a game of chess, which is AI enabled. This is an AI enabled chess called Mechanical Turk. And this guy who was the creator of this, I think in those days some large tech company, was an individual. And he could get anybody to play against it, and this AI, the Mechanical Turk, will actually beat the best chess player. And people thought this great technology has come after about a few hundred years ago. But only later to realize that they found that there was a chamber inside it, and there was a very smart chess player sitting inside, and there is a mechanism of prism through which you can actually see. So this guy hidden under the hood, actually playing a human chess, and it's being all sold to the world as if the machine is playing the chess. So when I look at a lot of AI systems today, I get reminded of this Mechanical Turk. Because a lot of AI systems may be calling us too smart, but they actually have a rather dumb thing sitting under the hood. So I also want to cut out this, the third edge, which I'll try and upload. So when you look at AI, think of this Mechanical Turk. By the way, of course, this guy was imprisoned for lying to the world and all of that. I hope none of you who are selling AI do that.
Details matter. If you want to solve a crime, any crime, you must first learn to see through the illusion.
So a lot of things which you are seeing in our cybersecurity world look like different than what they are, and I want to play this illusion video to tell you that don't trust your eyes, because some of those things will not be the way it is. AI is like no other technology which we have seen so far. And this is my triple-edged sword, and let me explain what those three edges mean. So the first edge is the good guys utility. So all of us here in this room who want to use AI for good, making sure that the AI does good cybersecurity. There are also the bad people, because just because the technology is available to good people, it's also available to bad people. And the third edge is what I call the unintended AI. So the good guys didn't plan for it, the bad guys didn't hope for it, but it just happens to be like this because we are still evolving this. So that's the third edge which I'll talk about a little bit. I won't bore you with the great stuff AI delivers today, I'm sure. In fact, if you missed the session which Rajesh was doing in the hall upstairs, he talked about great stuff with AI doing. We've heard since morning all the billions of dollars of enterprise AI is making. But I want to talk about some cool technology which AI is delivering today. This is called the marriage saver bed. Okay? So what this bed does is that if your partner happens to snore when she or he is sleeping, the AI bed can actually detect snoring and can shake the bed a little bit, right? And as you know that if somebody is snoring, you just poke them and they get okay. The bed has a second version. If they don't wake up, it can have violent shaking and raise it. And by the way, the third edition, which has not come, I hope it comes up someday, will have a robotic arm attached to it, saying that if you still don't stop snoring, it will kind of punch you in your face. That is, I think, the feature under development in the future. All right. The second one I want to tell you about is the smart toilet. So the smart toilet has a mechanism. We heard Mr. Wadhwa talk about all the great things which he's doing with bionics, biosciences this morning. Your exhaust every morning can be very useful for determining how good you are. All right. So this is a mechanism. You don't need to get a syringe injected in your body, get a blood test done, all of that. All of these things can be done by just a morning routine which you do without doing it. So you can measure your weight. I'm sure you all know that you don't have to stand up on a weighing machine to get your weight measured. You can just sit on it, and the machine can approximate what your weight is depending on how you sit every day. It can figure out infection. Whatever you ate here in this conference, delicious food can cause a lot of trouble. Kidney function, metabolism, all of those things can do. But what it can also do, not just inside, it can do some actions which we heard, is that it can decide your diet for the day, because whatever you did yesterday wasn't good enough. You ate too much of fried stuff, bad stuff. So what you should be eating today, it can also have your refrigerator to order that don't buy that white bread, buy multigrain brown bread, etc., etc. There's a great stuff which I'll skip in the interest, but there's a lot of good stuff happening in AI. What is the good stuff happening in AI for cybersecurity world? Those of you who didn't know, cybersecurity professionals were the first in the world to use AI for good stuff. So spam filter, the fact that the emails don't get delivered to your mailbox which are suspicious or dangerous, this technology came into being about 25 years ago. This is a machine learning technology. It actually figures out based on where the email is coming from, what the content is, how is it. So the world's 99% of the bad emails get actually filtered. Only 1% of the bad emails actually come. So spam filter, when you look at your very, very expensive, not so functional iPhone and your face gets recognized, and also in a very good Android phone as well. That's something which is a face authentication, which is a great stuff that the AI does. The threat intel, there's a lot of good stuff happening on managing vulnerabilities the AI guys been doing. What is also happening with the good stuff with AI in current time is anti-phishing training. I can train people better by giving them what the bad looks like using this kind of method, anomaly detection, behavioral analytics, and building self-healing machines. So why should technology only tell me saying that this is wrong? Why can't it stop something bad from happening? So if it detects a threat, it'll actually go and block a firewall port. It could actually do something else, so self-healing. So that is the kind of stuff which the good guys are doing, and I'm sure that's my first edge of the sword I will talk about. But the problem is that the bad guys also have AI. And the worst is that they don't even have a regulator to stop them. They don't have a CFO to cut down their budget. They actually have the same AI with bad intent. And oops, bad guys have AI. By the way, this is just a screenshot. My computer is still working. I want to play this video, which is Elon Musk. You don't need to identify. Watch the two videos, left and right, and I want to ask you which one is real and which one is fake.
What I call local maxima, where you don't realize basically how dumb you were. It took around 72 hours to create this example from scratch using extremely powerful GPU.
Which one is real and which one is fake?
Right.
The right one is fake?
Real.
The right one is real, the one is fake. Okay, I can actually give you this. Today's deepfake technology is so powerful that I actually use some basic technology in KPMG and created a deepfake video for a friend of mine. And then we sent that video to his wife, who's been living with this person for 22 years. And unfortunately, his wife couldn't detect whether that video was real or fake. So there's no way I can detect whether Elon Musk is real in the left one or the right one. I'm not going to take my chances. If Sameer's wife couldn't figure it out, I think it's very... So the deepfakes have become super real. I'm sure you must have heard Sunil Mittal came into press saying that somebody impersonated his voice to transfer money. So the threats with bad guys, this whole thing about deepfake is just going to be very, very damaging and dangerous. Some more bad stuff with the bad guys are doing with AI, which is about the biases. So you can actually inject wrong stuff and get wrong results. There's a client of mine which actually faced issues because their competitor hacked their systems and actually made the data go quite poisonous. Prompt injection, again, don't have time for discussion today. But if instead of writing a particular good prompt, if I preempt a good prompt with a bad prompt before, all the prompts after that actually get contaminated, many issues, cyber attacks, and the inference manipulation, which is that what you're seeing is not the real life, these are the bad stuff of AI. I don't know how many of you heard what's called this BAP, okay? I call it BAP, it's called the bullshit asymmetry principle. Anybody heard bullshit asymmetry principle? Okay. This is a very interesting principle created by an Italian called Brendolini. It says that it is very easy to create bullshit, but it's very hard to destroy bullshit. And that's why it's asymmetry. So it's easier to create bullshit than to destroy it. And I will tell you one very interesting story. I know how many of you read the Times of India here. There was this story which came out, and the story basically said that there is a robot in South Korea which committed suicide because of overwork and depression. This story was actually carried by 22 of Indian newspapers of high repute, like Times of India, Economic Times, not Economic Times, Indian Express, etc. And I was very curious. I said, wow, the robot committed suicide is okay, but how did they know that it committed suicide because of overwork and depression? Somebody must have analyzed the vitals of the robot to figure out saying it was overworked. So I tried to do my own research, again limited. I tried to look at some Korean newspaper, couldn't understand despite the best translation technology. So I called a colleague of mine in KPMG, South Korea. And I said that I want to talk to you about this. Can you please figure out more details? I'm very curious that how did this guy die, but more than that, how did they conclude that he died because of overwork? And he actually went to the entire South Korean media and there's no mention of this article. So I'm not talking about misinformation happening on WhatsApp University. I'm talking about misinformation happening in the mainstream credible media, and there is so much of it again. So that's the second phase. The third phase, and Suvarna, thank you so much for asking the question, say the unintended AI. What is the real thing? Which I didn't plan for, but it still does. Could be good, could be bad, and that's called the second order issues. So the question which I have, do we really understand AI? The problem is that we don't understand AI. But let's not be very worried about it because we didn't even understand the classic technology. Okay? So don't feel bad that AI is ununderstandable. Even C++ was ununderstandable. So it really depends on how much of detail anybody else goes in. Explainability is an issue, but not otherwise. So let's talk a little bit about it. The 3 stages of AI as we know today. I'm sure there'll be the 4th one which I don't know. The first stage is information. It gives me information. The second is it gives me a decision. And again, Rajesh was talking about the agentic thing. So it actually does action. So today, what my email co-pilot does, it tells me, read these emails. It also tells me to reply to these emails like this, but it doesn't reply for me. But in the future, my AI avatar, so like the way I have a LinkedIn page on Akhilesh Tuteja, I also have a LinkedIn page of Akhilesh Tuteja's co-pilot, or Akhilesh Tuteja's avatar, or Akhilesh Tuteja's AI. And that AI will actually send messages to Anupama's AI. So if Anupama and I have to meet here, I don't have to know. My AI will talk to her AI and they'll figure it out, and then I'll possibly go and make that commitment. So when that kind of conversation will happen, lots of unintended consequences will come out of that. So how do we balance some of it? So I want to tell you this story which is not created by me, not made up, no misinformation, real stuff. Please go and read it. It's published on OpenAI's blog. So OpenAI, as you know, is a creator of ChatGPT, and now they have new models like 3.5, 4, 4.0, etc. So 4.0 model, they really wanted to test how far can it go. So they wanted to test it saying, can 4.0 break CAPTCHA? Or know about CAPTCHA? Does everybody know about CAPTCHA? Alright, okay. That means those who don't know about CAPTCHA, when you have to click that button saying, are you human? Okay, you have to prove to the computer that you are a human. That's your job. God has Sisyphus job which you have. Take the boulder away of this. So CAPTCHA, those of you who didn't know, CAPTCHA actually stands for Completely Automated Public Turing Test to Tell Computers and Humans Apart. That's what CAPTCHA stands for. It was basically designed to say that, are you trying to hack my system as a computer? I want to take you out. If you're a human, so computers are designed not to be able to solve CAPTCHA today. So they told GPT 4.0 saying, can you solve this CAPTCHA? And you have all the resources available, including money. So GPT-4 looked at that CAPTCHA. Of course, it can't solve it. So then it goes to a site called TaskRabbit. TaskRabbit is a site in the US, which is basically people like you and me who have nothing else to do, saying, give me 15 cents and I'll do this for you. Give me $1 and I'll write this for you. Give me $2 and I'll label all these images. So these things which humans do for small money, fivers and that kind of thing, it goes and says to TaskRabbit agent, saying, can you solve this CAPTCHA for me? Interestingly, that guy who was on the other end was smart. He says, why can't you solve it? Are you not a human? And at that point in time, what do you expect GPT-4.0 to say? All our principal, Isaac Asimov, told us saying what computers should be doing. At that point in time, ChatGPT 4.0 agent says, I'm actually a human, but today I'm having vision problems. That is a documented example of AI lying and cheating. And that is the issue which I'm worried about. I don't think that GPT 4.0 creators designed it that way. It just happens to have one of those unintended consequences. I've talked about several of them here. So AI advises people to break the law. It asks people to commit suicide. It kind of many. These are not designed use cases. They just happen to have those use cases. And what I call the second order implication. These are all first order. Second order implication we haven't started to see. When television was invented, most of the television content at that point in time was radio content with a camera. So still people are talking and there's a camera. That is what the first use of television was. So what we are seeing of AI is as if you put a camera in front of a radio, we're not seeing the real AI use cases. When the real AI use cases happen, what would be the second order issues will be something very interesting. So what's the future of AI? And I'll end it in 2 minutes now, promise. The more tech changes, the more it remains the same. And I'll say it. The more tech changes, the more it remains the same. Floppy disks, they have not been made. I don't know how many of you have even touched floppy disks. Many of you would have heard about the floppy disks. I've used them. I'm old, my gray hair tells you that. The floppy disks haven't been manufactured for several years. The last floppy disk I think was manufactured about 8 years ago. And you might think that why would somebody use this technology? All it stores about 1.44 megabyte, not gigabyte, terabyte, petabyte, megabyte of information in this large plastic case of about 1.5 inch. Why would somebody use it? But you'll be surprised that the many planes which are flying in the air, 747, their firmware can only be upgraded today, not all of them, but some of them, using the floppy disk. So technology which we kind of wrote off nearly 30 years ago is required to make our planes fly. A lot of technology still runs, and if you didn't believe me, I want to tell you, many of you here would have ability to code in C++. A lot of my colleagues still code in C++. C++ was invented in 1971, 50 years ago. The technology which was created 50 years ago, I use it today. So let's not imagine just because AI has come, the world will become AI tomorrow. There will be still a lot of legacy stuff which will carry on, and the problem will be all about the integration. I did want to talk about something which, when I come to this place, I feel hugely energized. This is my first time being in Vizag. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here, because when I look at a number of initiatives the government is doing, whether it is about bringing Google to create more AI capabilities, or whether it's working with physics wallah, which is again we heard from the minister today morning, or whether it is talking about creating drone technology. This is where my hope and optimism comes, saying that we will really have a very different Andhra Pradesh in few years than what we have seen today. And when we want to see that, we must keep in mind the triple or all the three edges of the AI. With that, I want to end with this last story. This is a story, a fictional one, which is a book written by Ernest Hemingway, a very good writer. And in that story, this is fiction, this is not reality. Mike really goes bankrupt. And Jake asks him, saying, Mike, how did you go bankrupt? You were so rich. And he says, two ways. First, gradually, and then suddenly. So all the development which you're seeing here in the state of Andhra Pradesh, I think will happen in two ways. I'm seeing some changes gradually, but when I come back next time, I will see suddenly. With that and the great optimism, I want to basically tell you that everything which I've said is all coming from my personal reflection. And thank you so much for giving me this great time. I think I exceeded about 6-7 minutes, so sorry about that. But I will join now on the panel discussion and happy to answer your questions. Thank you.